Hey there, welcome back to Share TV, where today we will be recapping The Real Housewives of Orange County, Season 19, Episode 2. And you guys, I had amnesia from, I guess, last season, last reunion. Oftentimes, like once the season is over and the reunion has passed, I completely forget about what happened. But now I can kind of understand why Katie was going so hard at Emily, and it's because Emily brought up the custody of Katie's kids at the reunion. So now it makes a little bit more sense. Do I agree with Katie or defend her anymore? Absolutely not. However, now I can kind of see why she's coming at Emily as hard as she is. But before we jump into all of that, let me just give my disclaimer. All of these things are based on my opinion. I do not know these people. I'm basing my opinion on an edited show, and everything that I say is alleged. All right, let's jump into things. So we start off with Emily and Gina. So they're at this lymphatic massage parlor, and I guess Tamra comes with them too. But they do, honestly, the wildest activities. And I guess because it's Orange County, that's how these places are in business. Because I'm like, how are these places, like, making money like this? But fine. It's funny to watch. They have a pretty good time. But they bring up what happened at the Golden Door with Katie and Shannon. And we start with Gina giving Tamra props for, I guess, having a conversation, not even a conversation. She thanked Shannon for inviting her to the Golden Door, which Shannon invited everybody. So I don't think that's necessarily Tamra being like such a changed person by telling Shannon thank you. But we'll go with it, whatever. So then they say that they kind of have a little bit of an issue with Shannon sticking up for Katie. Now again, and even on my last recap and today, I'm not necessarily a Katie fan. However, the gang up was real, so I can see why Shannon in that moment, right? They're all moms, but like she's a mom, somebody's getting ganged up on. It was kind of giving bullying situation, if you will. So I can see why Shannon was just like, this is a little much for anyone, no matter what she did. Although I think we can all agree, well, most of us might agree that Katie was being super sketchy in that moment, but for her to not have an ally, I don't think was fair either because they all stick up for each other. But that's fine. I don't think they should be mad at Shannon for it. I think anybody with any decency would have and should have done the same thing. And eventually Gina tries to say that it wasn't a bullying situation and that they were just trying to get to the truth, but it really was a pile-on and a gang up. But during that conversation with them at the lunch at the Golden Door, which we cut off from last episode, Katie wants to have a get-together at the Hot Pot lunch, like a get-to-know-me event, which I think a get-to-know-me event with her, with it being her second season, is kind of a little weird. That just means you weren't being genuine last season for them to get to know you, that you have to have a lunch for them to try and get to know you. So I think it's a little bit counterproductive, but fine. So, but now we get to Gina, Tamra, and Emily back. We kind of switch around a lot, and I think it's because we have so many people and so many different groups that are clicking together that I don't know if you guys have noticed, but the episodes seem a little bit more choppy than they have in the past, like with the flipping back and forth. But anyway, we get back to Gina, Tamra, and Emily talking about how at the photo shoot for the end of last season, Shannon came in late. I guess she was in a bad mood. She was a little disheveled. She was yelling on the phone. And at that time, Katie took it upon herself to get off the phone with her husband and record Shannon. And then she allegedly sent this recording to Alexis, which we all know Alexis and Shannon were in the middle of a very public, wild lawsuit last season. So I can understand why once Shannon will find out this information, that's terribly upsetting for her. Gina says that she thinks that she's the person who needs to well, first, let's go back. Gina says that she doesn't want to be the person to bring this to Shannon's door. However, she thinks she should be the person to bring this to Shannon's door because she's the one who brought Katie into the group. And now she has this feeling that she needs to save everybody in Katie's wake, essentially. But in all honesty, I just feel like Gina's reaching. She's trying to make something about her and to, I guess, for lack of a storyline for Gina this season, she's going to insert herself just in everybody else's drama. I personally would rather see more of Gina's real estate business with Travis and more with her kids. I always love to see the housewives with their kids, but there might be some limitations with their dad or whatever in terms of how much they can film. But Gina getting involved where she doesn't need to because she doesn't actually have an issue with Katie is really reaching just to insert herself. But we flip to Shannon talking about her dating life. I don't know if you guys watched Love Hotel. I watched it for the first couple of episodes, but I ended up just not liking it just because there were two people from Potomac and then, of course, from New York and then OC. I didn't think it was a good variety, so I didn't really capture my attention long enough, but it did capture my attention long enough to see that Shannon did have a connection with, I think his name was Earl. So she's talking to her daughter Sophie about that for a little while. And I love Shannon's scenes with her daughters. I think Sophie is so sweet and calm and complete opposite of Shannon. But I love to see those interactions. And then we later find out later in the episode that Sophie broke up with her college boyfriend. So a little sad, but glad that she's thriving in New York. Maybe she'll be there long enough to be considered a New Yorker. Word on the street is you have to live in New York for 10 years to be considered a New Yorker. So we'll see if she makes it, but we, of course, wish her all the best. Speaking of kids, you guys know my thoughts on last episode when kids are brought up, especially minor children. It gets a little bit murky. Don't necessarily like to go there. But Emily, again, brings up her son on camera. As you can tell, I think it still makes Shane a little bit uncomfortable talking about his son because I think she said the twins are 9. So the one issue that I do have with her bringing up her kids and him possibly having autism and having challenges with eating and sensory issues and things like that is that he doesn't have a say of what goes on TV and what doesn't because he is so young. And we don't know if he necessarily wants this to be public. So, but we do talk about that. I had mentioned not talking about the kids, but I did see a lot of feedback on social media that they were in favor of her sharing these challenges because it could help other moms, which I completely agree with. However, back to what I said, he doesn't have a say in that, so it does get a little bit murky. But the one good thing that does come from it too, you can see both sides of a parent's, I guess, how they handle it. Because at one point, Emily says, as a mother, and Shane is like, well, you keep saying as a mother, but I'm a parent too. So just with how Emily goes into the saving mode, Shane goes into let's make things as normal as possible for him and just kind of seeing the differences there. So I have a really mixed reaction with her continuing this as a storyline. As a whole, I never like to see minor children involved with a serious storyline like that. I don't think it's appropriate. So we're going to move on. But Gretchen is back. She's coming back. She went to dinner at Jen's house with Katie and their husbands all met up there. And then we have a cut scene with Heather and Tamra at the same time that they're having this dinner. I have just got to say, Tamra is being such a hater, and it's honestly embarrassing for her how she is bringing up these things to Heather, and Heather's kind of like, yeah, well, okay, sure. So apparently, I guess she's saying that Gretchen wants to be just like her. So she moved to a house that was 2 doors down from Tamra at the time. She started doing workout videos. She put extensions in her hair. And Tamra says that she puts Tamra's old extensions in her hair. I was really confused with that comment. Like, you don't go to a salon and get somebody's old hair extensions to put in your hair. So I don't know what she was talking about. But once we got to the point where Tamra called her heavy, I was cringing. First of all, she showed a picture from who knows when. Also, Jen's had 6 6 kids, and then I think they adopted one, but she's had, even if she had one, right? Like, she's had children. We don't know when that picture was taken, and she clearly did not look heavy in that photo. So I think it just really brought to light, not that we needed it to be in any more light, but Tamara's jealousy and insecurity when it comes to Jen. And I think that's where a lot of their issues stem from, is that Tamara just has a problem with Jen for no reason. She, I think, is envious of her life or what she has, or dating Ryan. I'm not really sure. But then Tamara brings up during the same conversation with Heather that Gretchen had reached out to her daughter. And Tamara's wording is very particular here. She makes it sound like Gretchen sought out a conversation with her daughter. Meanwhile, it was a post that her daughter made, and Gretchen had made a comment under the post. And if you look at the date in the photo, it's from 2015. And I'm going to call that out for a second, because we're going to get to that in a little while. Tamara is always about, like, leaving things in the past, quote unquote, moving forward, all of the things. However, she's the one going back to 2015 on a comment that Gretchen made on her daughter's Facebook page. Do I agree that Gretchen should have made that comment? No, I think you probably should have just left that alone. But using the words like, I sought out your daughter, like she was calling her or sliding in her DMs or trying to have people communicate with her, it's weird, Tamara. Like, that's not what happened. But speaking of getting to that later, we will pan to the hot pot lunch. I keep wanting to call it a hot pocket lunch just because they kept messing it up the whole entire show, calling it a hot pocket lunch. So we're just going to call it a hot pocket lunch, or your get to know Katie lunch. Gina comes in and immediately she just calls out Katie. She's basically like, what the heck? What have you been doing? Did you talk to the blogger? Did you talk to the nanny? What's happening? And then Shannon pipes in and had a valid point that during the Golden Door event that everybody was ganging up on Katie. Well, again, Gina doesn't like the fact that Shannon is again sticking up for Katie, because it's getting into a situation where Katie's sitting there. This is her lunch and everyone's going at her. So then Gina wanted to tell everybody that Katie recorded Shannon and sent that to Alexis. Katie's claiming that allegedly she only sent that recording to her husband. I don't believe that for 1 second. And just based on Katie's reaction to Gina saying this and trying to backtrack and saying, I only sent it to my husband, girl, you're lying. Like, it's okay. Like, you wanted to get back at Shannon. I'm not really sure why. I feel like Shannon's probably been one of Katie's only allies outside of Jen, and she's about to burn that bridge too, because she throws Jen right under the bus as soon as she gets called out for filming Shannon. She says that Jen knew about it and that she had showed her the video and they had talked about it or whatever. And Jen's like, I've never seen this video. Then you hear Katie kind of backtracking and saying like she's never seen it. But I'm pretty sure, I watched the episode twice, I'm pretty sure she said that Jen was involved with the whole video thing and then kind of tried to backtrack. But all of this is a smokescreen for who originated this information, which is your girl Tamara. So Tamara is sitting there reveling in this drama between Gina, Shannon, Katie, and Jen. And she's the one who started it in the first place. And Tamara does that a lot. She will light a match, throw it into the fire, and essentially run away and watch the downfall and be like, I don't understand why y'all can't get along and we just need to move past this and this is in the past and all of these things. Shannon gets clearly visibly upset and walks away from the table. Honestly, I love Shannon. I do. I think she gives mom energy. She's such a sweetheart. But I really wish that she would sit in the moment and like combat back and forth with them and stick up for herself a little more. Because every single time something gets uncomfortable or drama starts, she's running away from a table. And it's always like when they're eating. So she's always getting up from the table, running away, and then she excuses herself and leaves the lunch altogether. And then at that point, Gina tries to like squash it by saying like, Katie, you really hurt me. I just want to be friends, blah, 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 which kind of seems really fake for me because like going into it, Gina was like guns a-blazing. I'm going to get Katie, to then be like, I just really want to have a genuine friendship with you. I know it's a show. I know it's a TV show and there aren't many genuine friendships on the show, especially this one, probably outside of Gina and Emily. But to say that I'm wanting to get to a point where we can have a genuine friendship is like fake at this point. Just go ahead and say like, we can be cordial, we can hang out, whatever, and leave it at that. Like you went from one extreme to the other, which kind of seems disingenuous. So I don't know where they're going to go from here. I guess, Gina thinks that she has to always, have Katie's back and stick up for her or fight her battles or fight other people's battles with her just because she brought her into this group. So we'll see what happens there. But Tamra and Gretchen use this opportunity to add some more drama to this lunch. I never actually saw them eat anything, so who knows what happened. But so while they're at lunch, Gretchen was bringing up the fact that Tamra had previously come at her and her fiance about him being a deadbeat dad and not taking care of his children, which Gretchen explained that that's absolutely not true. But as soon as Tamra hears something, she likes to take that little piece of information, flip it, reverse it, and run with it. So I never know if anything that Tamra says is true or even has a hint of truth to it. But naturally, of course, Tamra's like, I don't know what I ever did to you, which is another thing that I don't appreciate. Just own it. Like if you said it, like and the producers are petty, right? They bring up the messages. They'll bring up Tamra saying things on her podcast because you clearly said these things. And then for you to say that he is a deadbeat dad after he just lost his son is wild to me. So I can understand why Gretchen has such an issue with Tamra at this point. And then Tamra then wants to turn and say, hey, but you were reaching out to my daughter, which, like I mentioned earlier, is not the same thing, her commenting on a post. And they all agree at the table, and Gretchen gets very emotional about it not being the same thing, because it's not. You went on a very public platform that you have, Tamra, with your podcast, saying that Slade is a bad dad and a deadbeat dad, and that, I mean, that's the worst. His son died of cancer. His minor child, died of cancer, or maybe he wasn't minor, but his child died of cancer. And these are the things that you want to say in the moment just to get views on your podcast. That's, for lack of a better word, a little deplorable. And then in that same breath, Tamra says, well, I don't understand why you're bringing up things from the past. Well, Slade's son dying happened more recently than Gretchen allegedly seeking out your daughter to talk to her and communicate with her on a 2015 Facebook page. So she contradicts herself in a very short amount of time. And then again, we go from one extreme to the other. Tamra and Gretchen are completely at each other's throats. And then they say, well, maybe we can come to some sort of resolution and move forward. And I know they're on a show, right? There has to be some kind of resolution in moving forward. But when you go from one extreme to the next, it seems really disingenuous. And I think the audience is also very confused. 1 second you're like, yes, I hate your guts. And the next you're like, let's see if we can talk this out privately. It's no, you wanted to bring all of these things up at a very public lunch. So why are we going to talk about it privately now? Let's put it out on the table. But we'll see how it goes. I know there's still a lot of the season left, but I'm not exactly sure how I feel about Gretchen being back. I'm kind of glad she's back, so that way, hopefully she can stay on Tamra's neck a little longer. I think we see where my alliances lie, but so far, we're 2 episodes into the season. I want to know how you guys think that these episodes are going. My personal opinion, I feel like we've started a new season with season 19. However, we are still staying in season 19 or 18 and previous. and we're going back and rehashing things that I feel like should have been wrapped up in season 18, or we're talking about things that either happened off camera or happened at a reunion or happened at a photo shoot that we did, like the reunion we saw, but like the photo shoot we didn't necessarily see. So for us to be talking about things, I think we're going backwards, and I haven't felt like we've progressed their stories forward in any way. So I'm curious to see how the rest of the season goes. But so far, these past 2 episodes, with it being like a new season, doesn't feel like new and refreshed and kind of fun. Typically, we start out with more fun in the first couple of episodes and then get into the drama. I feel like we just kind of jumped in, and it feels a little like, where are we going with this? So we'll see. Want to know y'all's opinion on how you feel about Gretchen being back and how you feel like these episodes are going. But until we get to episode 3, make sure that you subscribe so you don't miss it. Leave a comment. Let me know how you feel about how the episodes are going so far. And until then, we will talk soon. Bye.